I am talking about Not the Life It Seems, The True Lives of My Chemical Romance by Tom Bryant. This is a book about the band My Chemical Romance, and the author is a British music journalist who has written for some of the magazines in the scene such as Kerrang, Q, and Mojo, who has also written for the Guardian newspaper. And this book goes over not just the beginning of the band, but it starts with talking about the members' childhoods, and it goes on up until about a year after the breakup. This book was published in 2014, so a year after the breakup, and it goes over some of the stuff that happens afterwards. But because of when it was published, it does not go over anything that has happened since the reunion, or any music that's been released since then, or anything to do with any of that. I believe it doesn't go over any of Frank Iiero's solo work, or Ray Toro's solo work. It talks a bit about Gerard Way's solo album, but I think this was a little bit before it was released. So that's what to expect based on when the book was published. The front cover does have a photo from the Black Parade era, but it goes on beyond that. Basically, the whole time, from the beginning to the end of when they were first active. And the author had done a lot of interviewing with the members, particularly a lot of Frank, so if you really like Frank, then you might really enjoy this. So there are a lot of quotes from the members themselves. So this book goes over a lot. Like I said, it starts with talking about their childhood, so it talks about each of the members and talks about where they grew up and the things they were interested in and how those interests would influence and affect their careers later on, what their families were like. It also goes over, throughout the book too, their musical influences. So there's quite a bit of information about them before the band started, which I think is important because it can help you understand them more instead of just going straight into it, instead of learning about where they came from. It goes over Gerard's time with Cartoon Network and some of the other creative projects he did. It went over how witnessing 9/11 inspired Gerard and how the band started. It went over Frank's time with his band before My Chemical Romance, Pensy Prep, and how he eventually ended up joining My Chemical Romance. It talks about their first shows. It talks a lot about their personal issues, which I think was interesting and good because it's not just a bunch of facts and all the good things and all their successes. It goes into the bad and the ugly as well. And this book isn't just a bunch of facts and trivia, so some people who might be fans might feel that they would already know everything in this book, but like I said, there are the interviews, so there are a lot of things that may have only been said in this book by the members, and so they might find that interesting. I think it really goes in depth with these individuals and into their creative processes. This book is basically one big story. It is one continuous narrative, and there are details about the creations of all 4 of their albums, plus some other things here and there that they did, which I'll get into. It goes into how they became popular and the progression of their popularity. It talks a lot about their tours, maybe not every single tour that they went on, though it may have, but it definitely talks a lot about them and how touring affected them and their thoughts on it. It also has some things to say about the beginning of the Umbrella Academy. Based on when this book was published, it was before the Umbrella Academy was adapted into a Netflix show. There was also some other interesting things in this, such as there was a part that talked about the effects and controversies surrounding the emo subculture, and it also had the band members give their thoughts on that, how bad things were happening because the subculture was being misunderstood, and how they were being blamed for things that they didn't actually stand for. And it goes over how they felt about that and how that affected them. It goes over so much. Nothing really feels skipped over. I mean, it doesn't have every single detail. For example, it doesn't talk about their appearance on Yo Gabba Gabba. Something this book went over that I found really interesting and really appreciated was about how Frank started the band Leathermouth, why he started it, what his vision and purpose was with it. I really enjoyed reading that because it helped me understand it a bit better, because Leathermouth is interesting music, definitely different from My Chemical Romance, and it's certainly not everyone's thing. I do like some of their songs, but I think having read the context of it and how Frank was using it helped me understand and appreciate it more. It goes over their cover of Desolation Row for the movie Watchmen. It goes over the making of conventional weapons. It also talks a bit about the music that they tried making before they broke up and what it sounded like and how they felt about it and how and why it wasn't really working and what other people thought about it. And it talks about the breakup and at least some of the members' thoughts on it, why it happened, and what led up to it. And I think this book did a good job at showing what led up to it, how you can see how things were starting to not work out as well. There are also some black and white photos in this book. There are quite a few of them, and I thought those were pretty cool. I thought this book was really good and really well written. I saw a review from someone who said that it basically makes you feel like you are on a journey with the band, going with them as they do all these things, and it kind of did feel that way. It did feel like you really knew the people that you were reading about, maybe not on a personal level, but as in you knew a lot about them, and you knew about their passions and feelings, and how much these projects meant to them, and how much effort they were putting into them. I thought it was interestingly written. It went over a lot of things and events chronologically, and with a lot of details and information. I found it really interesting, and I definitely recommend it to anyone who is a fan of the band like I am. Maybe you have already read this, so if you have, let me know your thoughts on it. Or maybe you haven't read it and you're watching this to get an idea of what to expect. I definitely think that there is a lot of information in this book that you will find interesting, and like I said, probably things that you have not heard before, and maybe even some things that you just didn't know. I definitely give this book 5 stars. I definitely enjoyed reading this.